welcome once again to Let's Talk Marriage. This is Pastor Larry coming to you this Wednesday afternoon with Let's Talk Marriage. All right. We're going to get right on into our program on today. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope if you woke up this morning, guess what? You are doing well. All right, we're going to get right on into our program today. Today we're going to be talking about this is a subject that we've covered on the program many times, or if not the entire time of the program, we've uh, brought it up in the program. We're going to be talking about going back to church as families. It just seems like marriage is not a very popular thing right now. Simply because marriages are not lasting like they used to. It's very rare if you run into a couple that has been married for a long time or more than a certain number of years, especially younger couples. You very rarely see that their marriages are lasting long. First of all, people don't take the marriage vows as seriously as they used to. One time it was considered very sacred, and you stuck it out. And one of the vows says, when you're getting married, they always say for better or for worse. And a lot of people, they can't go through the worst part when everything is going fine. And even sometimes when there's a lot of money involved in it, it's still they're still having a lot of issues. Sometimes infidelity and things like that. So it's not, you see in the industry, in the entertainment industry, how people be married for a little while, go back and forth with different people. And the same thing seems to be happening, believe it or not, in our churches. People are not lasting, or marriages are not lasting like they should. Simply because when they go through the rough patches in the marriage, people don't want to stick it out. And I always say, if there's not any mental or physical abuse, or if you're not being mentally or physically abused in a relationship or infidelity, you should be able to stick it out, and you should be able to work those things out. And we've said many times on the program about, and we've talked about getting counseling, family counseling, or counseling from your pastor, or even from some another couple that that's been married for a long time. Seek counseling with them. Just sit down and talk with them, especially if you know them. You might find it easier, or sometimes it's not easier if you know the people. But sometimes it's easier to talk to people that you know. Let them know what's going on, and see if you can resolve the issues that are in your marriage to make it last, because it's a honorable institution and instituted by God. And we should be sticking things out, and for better or for worse, because bad times is not gonna last always. And I said many times in a lot of my messages, even in this Christian walk, there is 4 seasons. There's fall, winter, spring, and summer. There's sometimes where you're going to have those storms, then there's sometimes where it's going to be calm. So you have to just stick it out. You don't just leave because you don't want the 4 seasons. Even when you go to a drier climate, you might have a longer dry season. Or if you go to a tropical climate, you might not have 4 seasons, but you have longer rainy seasons or longer stormy seasons. So it's always going to be something. In other words, there's always going to be something in that's going on. And again, we've said it so many times on the program that marriage is not hard; it's how we approach it and how we reverence our marriage. You can anything can pretty much be worked out unless it's something that's very serious, which would be infidelity, abuse, physically and mentally. Those things you might want to move on. If those things occur, or when those things occur in your marriage. But if it's nothing like that, you should be able to work it out. If it's just a financial patch that you're going through, you should be able to work it through. If it's something where you are arguing a lot, and you don't seem to be getting along, those things can be worked out. And we have to realize that you know, you're in this thing for the long haul, and most of the times when if you leaving a person or walking away from something, a lot of times it's your soulmate. It's someone that God put you with. So you have to respect what God wishes is, and just stick it out and work it out. That's what I always say. Stick it out and work it out, and things will work out. And again, the stormy or dry seasons are not going to last forever. So just hang in there with your husband. Just think of, that's why I always say make those good memories, so when things do, start happening in your marriage, or uh, you will have those great memories, or those memories to fall back on, a trip or something you might have went on. You talk about how you first met and things like that. Don't always think about the negative things that happen, or the negative things that have happened in your relationship. And then that would make everything a lot better. And first of all, most of our as married couples, you should be attending some, especially if you're proclaiming to be Christians or born again believers. You should be attending some sort of church as a family, and it's very important to attend church as a family. uh, the word says train up a child. You can't train up a child if he's not in church. Because when you train up a child, he might depart from it, or he might stray away from it. But once he get of age and he's sold his wild oats, or whatever you want to call it, most of the times they come back to the church, or they'll have that foundation when they get into a situation. They have that foundation where they'll know how to pray. They'll know who to pray to. They'll know that God has them. They'll know that their parents have their back, because they had that foundation planted in them, or that seed planted in them. So we have to make sure that we are taking our children to church. And depending on their age, if they're older, kids, if they don't want to go, you don't want to make them go. But if they're underage or minors or something like that, you have all rights to make them go to church. Make them go to church. Because a lot of times when you go to church, one of the things that I've noticed in my lifetime, that all the friends that I made over the years are the lasting friends were the ones that I met and were acquainted with from church. Those are the ones that still have lasting relationships, and that's what happens all the time. You might have friendships with in school, but if you don't have that background where you both went to church at least, or had that, where you you went to each other's church and visited each other's church, you still have that church foundation. So those friendships tend to last longer in your life. So you make sure that you are taking your children to church, and especially if a lot of people don't like it when families are seeking a church. They'll ask what kind of programs you have. That's a natural thing to do, because when you take your kids to a school, you want to know what's going on there, what kind of activities they have there, extracurricular activities that they have there to keep the kids busy. And that's the same thing in the house of God. You want to have some sort of activities where you meet, where the kids meet with their own peer group, and when they meet with them, they could have good times together. Because I know when we were coming up in the church that we went to, we were always busy as young people. And one of my friends formed got a choir together, because we didn't really have a youth choir at the time. So he started a youth choir, and we started a group, and we just did so many different things together as young people. We would spend a lot of time together on the weekends, and every chance we got, and during the summers we would get together a lot, and just had good, clean fun. And that's what's missing in our churches. So don't we shouldn't get offended as leaders when someone asks what kind of programs that you have in your church. They just want to know what their children are going to be doing in church other than Sunday school. Because when you go to Sunday school, a lot of times we ain't gonna get up that early anyway. So he wanted to know what else is being offered at our churches. And there's nothing wrong with having youth night and youth organizations and youth outings. That's the same thing they do at school. They don't just go there just to be in the books. If they just all they did was be in the books at school, no one would go to school. They had always had extra activities, other groups that you can join. As when you were going to school, and that's the same thing at churches. You would have like things that you would go out where, like you might have a young men's basketball team, or even a softball team, or soccer, or whatever they want to do, and you have game nights among the young people, things to keep them occupied and associated with each other, and that end up being lasting and strong relationships within your church. So it's time that we went back to church, and when people come back, welcome them with open arms. Don't give them the where you been treatment. Just welcome them back. So it's time that we go big, because if you think about it, when we all went to church, and when we made our younger kids went to church instead of letting them stay at home, everything was a lot better. We didn't have any young people walking around with guns shooting people. We didn't have people bringing guns into school, even though they took prayer out of the school. But because we had that foundation then, where we all went to church, and you would anoint your kids' head before they go to school. You would pray over them before they went to school. We had those foundations, and they were always in church. That was a part of your life. If there was activities outside of the church that caused you to miss church, most of the times you wouldn't be involved in those activities. And even when you were involved in those activities, you would make it your business to get to church after the activity. Even though you might be late, you would still come to church. And that's the attitude that we need to start having. And we said many times on the program too, is if your spouse doesn't like the church that you are attending, have that conversation. Just sit down and have that conversation, and decide on a church to attend together. And a lot of times, if you want your children to be involved in something, you might want to take them to a church that's getting off the ground, or you want to get into a church that's already off the ground, where they already have things established, where your kids can be involved, and they'll be looking forward to going to church. Because I know we did as young people. Because on the one, I remember one of the coldest days, coldest winters, and I think it was like 40 degrees, wind chill below zero, and the snow was like 18, 19 inches high. And it took buses, because no one had a car at that time, and it took the buses a long time to get to from one spot, from point A to point B. We When we got to church that Sunday morning, it was really really cold. We got to church that Sunday morning. Only one that was there was the church deacon that came in and turned the heat on and everything. He was the only one there, and beside him were the young people. We all showed up, and they were like, "Oh, you guys are brave coming out in this weather." That's how much we wanted to be at church. We all showed up at church, and when they didn't have service, we just had rehearsal. We just stayed there, had rehearsal. We sat around and talked, fellowshipped among each other, grabbed a bite to eat, and then, we got on the buses and headed back home. And we had a wonderful time doing that. And these are the things that you want to have, these lasting relationships. You want your children to have these lasting relationships, and those are the good, honest friends that you'll always have. Were the ones that built around your church. So you have to make sure that we are doing these things, and attending church. And let's go back to church. Everything was a lot better when we all went to church. Don't let it be because I got too much money, I don't need to go now. Because back then, when everybody went, no one really had anything. So we all went to church, and when we wanted to dress up, that was the place we did. We went to church, we dressed up and went to church, which was a wonderful thing. And now, people just come any kind of way. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's how much pride we took into attending church back then, and how much we wanted to be in service. And we was always in service, and we had just had the most wonderful times. And we would have church picnics, outings with the young people. We had such a wonderful time. And I remember at one church we were at, we had the Men of Faith, and that was all the men that were in the church. We were part of that organization. We would go out and do things together as men. And we went up to Lake Geneva years ago and took all the young men with us and stayed on the George Williams campus. We had such a wonderful time. These are the things you want to do, and make sure that we are attending church. This is Pastor Larry. I'm going to be signing off until we meet again with Let's Talk Marriage. I want to take this opportunity before we leave the air to invite you out to our services at New Zion Christian Center. We're located at 15014 Des Plaines Street in Plainsville, Illinois. Our services begin on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. God bless you, and we'll see you there. All right.